So we are here now semi-live from Metelkova. You can see the big truck that we have been using to travel around the world. And we've been many times in Balkans. That's why we're now going to tell you a few funny stories about the Balkans. But you know what, let's go inside because we like it inside. We'll have a look. We take a little time. 1 second. Because now you can see the painting. Well, I actually put off my shirt and be ready. So many things happened in Balkans, you know. We actually have been traveling Balkans many times when we went to Turkey, to Macedonia, to India, to Egypt. And for example, we meet this guy. That was funny. We made once a complete selection in Slovenia with 80 Slovene artists. And we walked here through the city, and there's a lot of galleries actually in Ljubljana. You should not be too much, let's say, negative about Ljubljana, because we have saw a dozen of bookshops and a dozen of galleries, while in our city we have only 2 galleries and 2 bookshops. So that was good. And we walked into this gallery, and there was fantastic paintings of this guy, Simon Kajtna. So I walked inside, and I said to the lady, well, fantastic artist, who is he, where does he live? And she explained to me, and she gave me a telephone number, and I called Simon, and I said to Simon, hey Simon, my name is Martin, and we are making a national selection in Slovenia. And do you want to participate? And Simon heard my story, but halfway the story he says, hey, but wait a minute. This is some kind of group exhibition, isn't it? Yeah, some kind of group exhibition it is, indeed. He says, well, sorry, thank you for the invitation, but I never participate in group exhibitions. And I said to him, okay, you know, asking is free, answering is free as well, so you're welcome. He says, yeah, but you know, I like your plan. It's not about the plan. You know what? He says, give me an invitation when it's the opening and I come and have a look. And I said, for that, I need your email address. He says, okay. He gave me his email address. And I sent him the same day, I sent him just a normal invitation that I send to artists if they want to participate. And within a half an hour, the guy called me and says, what? You travel all around the world with this truck? I said, well, we've been in India and Tunisia, and we've been on many places already. He says, wow, I wish my wife accepted that, but she doesn't. So you know what we do? We have a breakfast in the morning, she goes to her job, I go to my atelier, and there I spend all day in China. It's all imagination, I guess, isn't it? Actually, before I started traveling in the Balkans, I had with this project, I had traveled the Balkans already many times. And we made a selection also with internationals in Holland, where we meet a lot of Balkan people. And there I met this Mr. Aref Telaku. And he's from Kosovo. And so I visit him. He's an older man. He came to Holland because of his young daughter. He wanted to have a better future for his young daughter. And actually, he's there more than middle-aged, and in his room, actually far away from his homeland, and what to do, you know. But he's painting, and so he made, so it was funny. I came to his house, and we entered. Immediately he gave me this painting, and he says, see, here you see the country of Kosovo, and the Kosovar flag and the American flag with the Statue of Liberty. And actually he says this was 2004. And actually he says, I hope the Americans will come again to Kosovo so we can be absolutely free. And I said immediately, but why didn't they do this in the first place? And immediately we were in some kind of political dilemma, looking at each other, now what to do. And he was the first one who acted smart. He says, you know what? Do you want a drink? I said, maybe that's a good idea. So we put on some rakia, and I drink a rakia, and we speak a little bit more, and he pours another rakia, and I said, oh, please, please, I don't drink so much. And well, but you should, and why not? It's good for you. And he already wanted to pour the third drink, and I said, no, please, I need to drive. And who cares, it's good. Besides that, all good things come in three. And I was really surprised when he said this, because in the beginning, he speaks to me, and he wants to send the biggest army to his enemy, the Serbs, who use this as not only to show three, but also to show their Chetnik signs, the most nationalistic Serbians, the one who are really his enemy, actually. But he uses the same phrase and the same symbol, so I was kind of surprised. He wanted to send the biggest army to his enemy, but when he got a new friend and speaks normally, he spoke exactly the same language as his enemy. And we were a little bit surprised about that. I could explain him that I know much more about Yugoslavia than just what I read in the newspaper. And meanwhile, actually, to be honest, in this little story, I do not only say what he hopes, because actually he hopes a good future for his daughter as well, but meanwhile, I hope that he doesn't mind that I tell the story the way it really was, because it was a beautiful story and a fantastic meeting. Thank you, Mr. Alef Talaku. And this is actually how I got, let's say, Balkan story from Holland, but there's Balkan stories from all around Balkan. For example, just make fun. This is Petra Pretzel, and she says, things should be weird and funny and surprising. That makes sense to us. And I agree completely. Or we got this painting, that's a fantastic painting, by the way, Andrej Pavlić. Oh, sometimes these artists, they tell me things and I only have to listen, and this is how I learn. For example, about Greek mythology. What did he do? He made this painting and he says, this is Saskia. Saskia, isn't that the muse of Rembrandt? Yes, he says, yes. So he started with Rembrandt. Good start. And then he said, but in this painting I gave her another name. Her name is, I'm not so good in remembering names, but I think her name is Annalena. He says, do you know the story of the three ladies? There's Annalena, Lachlein, and another one, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong. And the first one makes the wire. The second one decides how long it will be, and the third one cuts it. And of course, this is the line of life, isn't it? But the guy looks at me and he says, meanwhile, but I made her in black and white because she's in front of this wall. Do you see that? And I said, well, if that is a wall, then she's in front of it, yes. But at that moment, we were standing shoulder to shoulder looking at this painting, and he says, if she is in front of the wall, we are also in front of the wall. Yes, he says. And these days, in modern times, the days of today, the world is a kind of black and white. So that's why I made her in black and white as well. And so are we in a world which is acting black and white non-stop. Okay. And I look further and I see this little square, this little hole in the wall where you can see a little cloud behind it, and that, he says, that is through this little hole you can see the world as it's supposed to be. And I said to him, wait a minute, you speak about Rembrandt, I believe that. You speak about Greek mythology, I'm interested. But who are you to say how the world is supposed to be? And the man looks at me and he thinks, you are right. Let me make a correction, he says. Here, through this little hole, you can see the world the way it was. Interesting correction. So I think, wait a minute, history, Greek mythology, the line of life, there behind the wall, the life is the way it was. So I'm trying to follow the line of life and see on the backside what ends up, and then it says, it's up to you. In other words, in my case, this story has a very good ending. To be honest, I hope in your case as well. That was some of the things that we got in Slovenia. Fantastic place. And we also spend a lot of time in Croatia, in Istria, in Serbia. We got very nice paintings from Novi Sad and Čačak, and in Bosnia we've been around. We will tell some Bosnian stories before and after, but we went to Macedonia. I will tell you some good rock and roll stories of Macedonia, but before that we came to Kosovo. And there, for example, we meet this man. His name is Ilić, Branislav Ilić. And he's the father of 2 sons. He's an older painter, and he's from the city of Mitrovica, the most, how to say, gutted city in Yugoslavia. One of the places where the trouble started before the war, and one of the places where the trouble continued after the war. And he made this painting called Rak. And Rak is, how do you say this? Lobster or cancer. Cancer. It is a thing that goes into your veins. If you don't fight it, it goes everywhere in your veins. And I realized the guy was not speaking about the cancer in his life, but about the cancer in his society. I'll show you the painting of his son to make that clear. Because his painting of his son is this painting, Blažo Ilić. And Blažo, together with his other son, they sometimes participate in international art projects, and then they do not get trouble with the enemy, the other people on the other side of the river, on the other side of the border. No, they get their trouble actually from the people inside their own community. Who are you to go and work with those assholes? Who are you to go and work with people we don't agree with, etc., etc. And meanwhile, Blažo, he is stoic. He goes the way he needs to go from his heart and his head. And he made this fantastic painting, very beautiful drawing in my opinion, and he used a little newspaper which says Politica. That's the name of one newspaper. And he actually mentioned, what will happen if you put your papers full of bad news? The people will become depressed. That will be the result. But it is possible and necessary to lift a society just by writing better news in the newspaper. It's not only necessary and needed, it's also very useful for the longer time. Blažo Ilić. That reminds me, good people, about one story from the same city of Mitrovica that I now have to go and take from the wall because I forgot to prepare myself perfectly. But as you know, perfect doesn't exist. So, a little intermezzo, look at the paintings for a few seconds. I'm going to take it right now. Let me tell you the complete story about Mitrovica. So I go there and I have an appointment with this man. His name is Čukri Šeliku. And Čukri is a little bit nervous because I was a little late. And he was also a little nervous because he has to give away his painting for free. This is not so easy. It's like your little baby you have to give away, And also he has to give a painting of his friend. So, and he's a little bit in a hurry and I'm late and okay, we come in. And he shows me this painting and he says, look, this is the bridge that you can see from the window. This is the bridge of the Ibar. And Ibar is the river in Mitrovica which divides the northern part and the southern part. And this is the northern part that you see, but he lives on the southern part. And actually he says immediately to me, here you see the bridge. It is protected by the international community. Here lives the enemy. I hope we will kill them soon because there behind this, on this hill, is my original house and I hope to go back to home. So that was kind of, let's say, tough intermezzo of this situation. And I tried to tell him, you always try to balance a little bit. So I told him, but there is, I understand your frustration and your anger, but there's also for example, international community now, which is protecting the situation. Yeah, but they're completely corrupt. I mean, they are here, they do nothing, they write beautiful reports so they can stay a little longer, and meanwhile they earn 6,000 a month, while we earn only 200 a month. So that is not really helping. And I said to him, but next month there is elections in Kosovo, isn't it? And that's already the third free election since all the trouble of some years ago. Yeah, he says, but you know, our local politicians, they are really bad because they're the worst of all, because the enemy says that they hate us, but our politician says they love us, and then when they are chosen, they still hate us, and they only work for themselves. So the guy was full of anger, full of frustration, which is reasonable because his country is destroyed, and let's be honest, it didn't bring a lot to most of the people. It only brought most to those who are corrupt or who are stealing or who are dealing business and have the opportunity. But most of the normal people, they more or less lost their beautiful country, Yugoslavia, which has their problems, but also their beautiful sides. So all the time I'm trying to make a little conversation with him to balance a little bit, you know, but every time that turns out to be difficult. And then it was kind of funny. Also in this case, we're standing shoulder to shoulder looking at this painting, and we're thinking about the whole situation and what to say when somebody is frustrated because his beautiful life was more or less destroyed, and already for 20 years he's in trouble now. So finally I said to him, you know, I understand the things you're talking about. I understand those frustrations, but at the end, we have to move forward, isn't it? But the funny situation was, we are in the middle of his atelier, and this is a room with 4 or 5 corners, a little bit strange round room with a number of doors. And when I said we have to go forward, isn't it? I coincidentally just pointed at the door of his toilet. And I see WC on this door. And the guy looks at me and he says, "What do you want to? Are you pissed, or do you want to have some shit?" And we're looking at each other, and we realized the funny part of this situation, and we started to laugh. And then he fell around me, he hugged me, and he says, "Finally, I know why I'm participating in this project. Good luck. Keep on telling the stories, and so everybody knows what is going on in this world." Čukri Šeliku, fantastic. Nice. But there is a lot of Balkan stories. Let me tell the last story from Kosovo, because in Kosovo there is one guy, his name is Jakub Ferry. And Jakub is a fantastic young artist, and he has a wife and kid in Holland, so he comes frequently to Holland. And he made the official painting for the mobile exhibition. But then when he slept in my house, artists sleep for free in our little hotel, of course, every time he wanted to have one more panel, because he cannot sleep, he can only draw and smoke a little and draw. And so he made 4. He slept 3 times in my house, and 3 times he made an extra one. And this one he made in 2015. Check this out. It is without title, but only half a year ago I realized, check this out. There is this guy looking through some kind of microscope, and he finds something. It is round, but it doesn't have this corona tentacles. Coincidentally, the microscope he's looking through has the corona tentacles. So what is going on here? I think this artist has been looking into the future. Interesting part. I also got a painting from a Balkan guy. He is from Macedonia, and but he lives in Berlin, and he gave me this portrait. I guess you know this guy. For everybody who listens to Balkan stories and is interested in Balkan, you should know this guy, of course. This is Gospodin Josef Broz Tito. And the funny thing was, actually, I remember I gave Jovan one little panel, and a week later he told me, "Oh, I gave it away to somebody else because that's a great artist, he will participate." And I said, "Okay, but what about your panel?" "I'm not sure yet what to do." "Well, I give you a new panel." "Okay, but I'm not sure yet what to do." We shall see. And another 2 weeks later, he gave it away again to another artist. And it's like some kind of, he's trying to get rid of the pedal or something. And but that night, I was in his gallery and he explained me something interesting. Jovan is portraitist. And he got a job to paint portraits of old German artists from the 19th century. But there's no pictures of these people, so how to make a portrait of them? So what did he do? He traveled around Germany and went to look for statues of those artists. And then he made a picture of the statue, and on such a way he was able to make a portrait. However, he says, statues have no eyes. So I all gave them my eyes. And that was kind of a joke how he solved his problem. And I said to him by a joke, you know what you should do for the Show Your Hope? Make a portrait of Tito with your eyes. And the guy says, oh, that's a good idea. 10 minutes later he came to me and said, that's a really good idea actually. And 1 day later he sent an email, that's a very good idea. And so finally he did it. But it was a little bit dangerous because Tito is a very big man. To give him your eyes is a kind of tricky. So finally, Jovan, he chose a photo of Tito where the eyes are really small. So and it was funny. And meanwhile, I have to ask him, okay, Jovan, thank you for this introduction. Now, my official question, what is the relation between your image and the hope? And you see, this is a professional artist. So when I asked the question 3 times professionally, he avoided the answer. And here I am now, with this painting in my hand of Joseph Broz Tito, one of my heroes, together with Gorbachev and Nelson Mandela. And no story, so I'm with my mouth full of teeth. Hoe noem je dat? Ik sta met mijn mond vol tanden. Don't know what to say. Something has to be said about this painting, but I didn't know what to do. So usually when I use this at performances, I make some improvisation, and then I wait for people who say, yeah, but Tito was a dictator. He was an enlightened dictator. Be careful. Don't say foolish things too often. In Macedonia, I must say, we got fantastic paintings. Super, super good artists who participate. Beautiful artist, friendly artist, most of them working extremely good. And there we got this painting. This is a fantastic painting made by a man called Konstantin Kachev. And Konstantin, he mentioned to me that his family is originally Russian family. And after the Second World War, they left the Soviet Union because they were not really sure their life was going to be okay. So they fled and they arrived in Greece, in the north of Greece. But as you maybe know, in the 50s, 60s, there was a civil war in Greece where the nationalists kicked out all the others and also kicked out all the foreigners. So they left again and they ended up in Macedonia, Yugoslavia. And Yugoslavia was actually the first multicultural country in Europe. While we are still discussing if multiculturality is good or not good, Yugoslavia was already a multicultural society since 60, 70 years. And he said it's kind of interesting. There has been some kind of enquete in Macedonia, and they ask, what are the favorite countries in the world? And what turns out to be, the USA and Holland are the most favorite countries in the world. And these are countries which became big through immigration. And meanwhile here, we are having a discussion about it, he says. We have always been a multicultural society, but since Yugoslavia fell apart and every different republic became under the pressure of nationalistic politics, they start wondering what to do with each other. Well, everybody knows, if you think normally, everybody knows that the country raises when you get more influences, when you get more spices, when you get more different knowledge, when you get more different perceptions. Everybody knows. That's why US and Holland are such a popular countries in Macedonia. But in the same time, it seems that the Macedonians are not capable of turning this knowledge to their own country. And that's why we still have this problem, because we are Russian family, you know, we are not part of Kosovar nationalist, of Macedonian nationalists. This painting is called The Immigrant. I hope, he says, everybody realizes that immigration can be really good for most of the people. I like that one. And then we came to when you spend a lot of time in one country, you also get to the underground. Maybe we should even start with we start with this one. This is a painting of Milan Andov, and Milan Andov is how would you say that? Attracted to the virtues of life. So you cannot go and drink a beer with him, but you can get drunk with him. That's possible. And he's not going to look to take some pill to spend the evening on a different trip. No, he takes all the pills to spend a completely different trip on all the planets in the same time. And if that doesn't work, he might shoot. And some people call him a junkie, other people call him a wreck, but most of the people call him Milan Andov because that is his name. And this guy, I ask, do you want to make a painting about hope? And the guy says, don't you know that the hope of today will be the disappointment of tomorrow? So I think if I say yes, this conversation is over. So as sincere as possible, I said, no, I don't know this. And then we were looking at each other and we didn't know really what to say. And you know what happens when you look at each other and you do not know what to say? Slowly people get a smile on their face, and this happened to us also. And he took the panel, the empty panel from my hands, and he said, you know what? Let me take the panel. We will see what happens. See you later, okay? Good. 2 months later, we have an appointment, and I go to his house, and there he has this fantastic painting. And before I could ask anything, he says, you know, about hope I know nothing. The only thing what I know is how to make a painting, and then how to make it a little bit better tomorrow. Is that enough for you? And I start thinking, you know, and I look at my family or at the audience or at people around me, and I do not know if they're doing good or bad, if they have a good day or a bad day, if they're happy or not so happy. But I do know, whatever is their situation, if they're just making sure that tomorrow they are doing a little bit better, they're doing good, isn't it? So the moral of this little story is, Milan Andov is doing good. In that underground of Macedonia, I ended up quite a lot, and I got this painting from a guy called Miroslav Masim. And somebody gave me his telephone number and told me, I gave him an empty panel, you can go and call him and pick up the painting. And I know nothing about Miroslav Masim, so I made a little mistake. What did I do? I took the telephone and I make an appointment at 10 o'clock in the morning. That was a little bit too early, so it was funny. I go to his house, I ring the bell, nothing happens. I cough, I sniff my nose, and I ring the bell again, nothing happens. So I take my telephone and I hear one voice, hello. Hey, Miroslav Masim, you speak with Martin. Is it correct? We have an appointment today at 10 o'clock. Oh yeah, sorry. The party of last night took a little bit longer, but I will start the party up again. Don't worry. One second. So I hear some stumbling upstairs. Something falls from the stairs. I think it was him, but I'm not really sure. He didn't confirm afterwards. Before the door opens, I hear the music is on full volume again. He opens the door and he says, you want a beer? No, man, I'm here to just 10 in the morning, my friend. I'm here just to take a painting. Yeah, but I just started the party again. Come in. And so I went inside and there's the party. No people, but still a lot of beers on the table and garbage and joints on the street, on the ashtray and music loud. And yeah, there was party again and he went to party again and I'm trying to say that I'm just here for the painting, but then, but finally he became a little bit serious, and he says, "Don't you think that when you look from the bottom of your heart, that the world is actually a beautiful place?" I said, "Yes, I think so too." We should celebrate that. Red wine or white wine? We can also mix them and have rosé. Haide, popimo, and drink. And on such a way it continued. And I think at my attempt number 7 to ask him about the painting, finally he became a little bit serious. And he gave me a flyer and a photo, and he said to me, I made this painting, and I must say my last exhibition was in Paris 5 years ago. And I knew immediately what was his hope all about. Because I do not know about nostalgics if it's good or bad, but I do know when you speak about it, it becomes bigger. And I know this man lived in a country which doesn't need a visa for any other country in the world. And he could go and travel around in his own country everywhere. And now, 20 years later, he needs a visa to go and meet his parents in another country which used to be the same country. And I know that before that, he lived in a country where economics was not so bad, so you could travel and could do something and listen music, etc. And now everything is closed up, and he doesn't even have the money to go to Paris again. And if he has the money, then he must pray or beg to get a visa or something. I knew immediately what he was speaking about. So we didn't speak about this anymore, because it was already enough. And but he showed me these pictures of his last exhibition in Paris, and a flyer. And the flyer says, 1000 peintures de Miroslav Massim à Paris. 1,000 pictures of Miroslav Massim in Paris. And there was all paintings like this, bigger ones and smaller ones, and there were all paintings, and they had the same. They all had this, they all had this stamp, and they all had this autograph, and they all have a fingerprint, and they all have a date, and they all have a particular sign, and they all have something read like this. But these were all different. And then he told me, in my life, for sure, 1,000 women gave me a kiss, and I painted all their lips. That's what it is. That was kind of funny. And so I write in my little book, you know, Miroslav Massim, number 718. Does the painting also have a title? And the guy says, 718? Really? I say, yeah, you are participant 718. Really? Is that my number? Wow, what a coincidence. That's my lucky number. I said, 718 is your lucky number? That's a big coincidence. Yes, he says, because 718, that is the kiss of my mother. You know what? Every story that ends up with mother is a great story. So that was just a little selection of some Balkan stories that I had here. I think I've done them all. Oh no, there's one I would like to show you. Because we are here now again in Ljubljana, Metelkova, this time in Galerija Alkatraz. But one of the very first paintings that I ever got was in a place called Zelenkovac, in the heart of Yugoslavia, where Tito was hiding for the Nazis before he went to the island of Vis, or just after, I think. First he went to Vis, and then... Anyway, and this is a painting of Boro Jankovic. He is a record holder because he made this painting in 5-6 minutes, and he says, I hope the valley where I live will always be as beautiful as it is, so I can keep on painting it. I just wanted to say, when stories end up with mother, it's a great story. But for Boro Jankovic, it is kind of clear. The story doesn't have to be good. The painting needs to be as good as possible, but in your heart and in your mind, you better stay clear and good. Who am I not to agree with a good friend? Have a nice day. See you tomorrow. And tomorrow we will have stories, I'm not really sure, but I think they're about Iran and about football. Why not? Have a nice day.